I can't explain that is, in fact, why I believe in the existence of ghosts.
What has been the experience that you have had in the past, Jeff, that has just, to this very day, boggled your mind?
Well, it actually occurred in broad daylight in the desert in Nevada called the Black Rock Desert. I was on a long horseback ride, 120 miles, and was leaving camp early one morning and thought I saw two riders returning to camp, but I noticed they were dressed in buckskins, not the typical garb that people in our group were wearing. As they got closer, I could see they had long rifles across their lap, and nobody was carrying firearms in our group. And I could see the astounding detail of not only the riders but the horses, and then the images of these two riders simply vanished before my eyes. And I turned to look at my horse to see if he noticed, because he often reacted to other horses, and he looked like he was asleep. And as I turned around, I saw the riders heading off in another direction, and I watched them for about 30, 40 seconds, and they faded away again. But this is broad daylight, complete apparitions, not only of the riders but the horses, and in complete detail to the extent that they look completely lifelike. So it goes against the grain of most of the ghost reports that we hear about, of something showing up at 3 in the morning in a darkened space, and it's partial, or it's very, very incomplete in terms of detail. It was complete opposite to that.
Tell me, Jeff, while you were watching the horses, did you happen to notice if the horses were kicking up dust as they were galloping?
It's interesting you should bring that up, because there was no dust.
Wow.
No, they weren't. And yet other horses in the group certainly did that. And that suggests to me that they had no physical component to them.
How is it some people can actually see apparitions and other people can't?
That's another good question. Some of us have a talent, just as some of us can play the piano, and some of others would have no hope of ever gaining that skill. I have an innate sensitivity to that, but I've worked on ways of increasing sensitivity to paranormal phenomenon, and I write about those methods in my book. So if people want to find out how to increase their sensitivity, they could pick up one of my books. In each book, I describe this technique. It has a lot to do with using a meditation technique simply to clear the mind of all the distractions, the mental distractions that go on constantly, and also to shield ourselves against external distractions, and then enable us to focus on the entity that we seek. It has a lot to do with that. And once you become skilled at this, you'd be surprised at what you hear and see and feel around you.
Jeff, what do you believe is the biggest myth or the biggest misconception pertaining to ghosts?
I think that's that ghosts are frightening and intend harm. People make a big mistake about that. Even some of the paranormal investigators that we see on some of the television shows, they'll encounter something that they're seeking, either a sound or an image, and scream and yell and run from the site. And I don't understand that behavior at all. Ghosts very often are simply trying to get our attention, and they may do that by touching, hitting, scratching even, moving objects, making sounds that are unexpected, somewhat frightening perhaps, but they're really trying to get our attention. They're not trying to hurt us, and I think people need to understand that.
To your knowledge, Jeff, in all the research that you've done and communicating with other members of the paranormal community, have you ever heard of anyone being physically harmed by a ghost?
Well, yeah, I have to say that I have. I mean, I have myself. But it's a mild degree of physical harm. I've been scratched and kicked and pushed and that sort of thing. But you feel it, and it doesn't hurt. I've seen video of people being struck by their camera bag, for instance. Yeah, it hurt a bit, but they weren't seriously injured. I've heard of that sort of thing. I have not heard of anyone having a serious injury, and I think any injuries that occur to that extent may have happened because a person might have run from a paranormal experience, turned and run in a darkened space and tripped over something, or went through a glass window, or hit wires suspended from a ceiling in an abandoned house. Occasionally you hear about that sort of thing. I think you can't blame the ghost for that.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
But I haven't heard of people being pushed down the stairs and becoming a quadriplegic, or having a ghost grab the steering wheel of their car and causing an automobile accident or anything like that.
Why is it some places remain haunted? Wouldn't these spirits, wouldn't these ghosts want to move on, or do they actually enjoy staying in haunted places and scaring the hell out of people?
Well, I don't know if they're there to scare the hell out of people, but there are a lot of ghosts who feel perhaps fearful of moving on. Supposedly, there's this light and you cross over or go through a tunnel, and there's perhaps some people think there's a judgment waiting on the other side, or they might fear meeting up with people to whom they were unkind or in their life. They might fear that, but I think for the most part they find that the place they're in as a ghost is comforting to them. They might have suffered a lot of emotional anguish during the transition from life to death, and they found a place that they feel comfortable, they feel protected, it's familiar, and they simply want to stay there. One other theory is that they might find people, or I should say spirits, that comfort them. On the USS Hornet, which is a retired aircraft carrier in Alameda, California, there are many ghosts, perhaps as many as 600 on that ship, but it's believed that most of them didn't die on the ship or in any way connected with the ship. It's simply a magnet, if you will, for spirits who were in the Navy who found that this is a comforting place with colleagues who had a common experience when alive.
Interesting. Please stand by, Jeff. You and I have to take a commercial break with the news at the bottom of the hour. Exonation, our very special guest this hour, Jeff Dwyer. www.jeffdwyer.com. That's JEFFDWYER. That's www.jeffdwyer.com. And Jeff and I will be back together here in the X Zone on the other side of the news as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, Star Cable, and of course, X Zone TV. Don't go away. We'll be back on the other side of the news. Are you considering calling a psychic to read your situation? Then consider David Champion, a psychic medium for more than 20 years with thousands of readings under his belt. David Champion will make you feel comfortable. He has proven to be honest and accurate. He's a straight shooter. There's no guesswork. What he sees is what you get. While he is a medium, most of the calls focus on relationships, not only love, but work, school, neighbors, and more. Need help with finding a job and preparing for the interview? Are you dealing with people who are obstacles in your path? For more information, go to davidchampion.com, $1.50 per minute paid by credit card with a minimum of 30 minutes. For your reading with David Champion, call 1-877-702-8598. That's 1-877-702-8598. Now you can dial in to listen to the X Zone Radio Show from anywhere in the world with Rob McConnell 24/7, 365 by dialing 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080. If you have a mobile phone or landline, the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is now at your beck and call at 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080, 24/7, 365. You're listening to the X Zone Radio Show, live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, and Star Cable. Our toll-free telephone number worldwide is 1-800-610-7035. Our email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. on MSN Messenger, X-Zone Radio TV at hotmail.com, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com.
I say I love you? Need I say I care? Need I say that emotions something we don't share? I don't want to be sitting here trying to deceive you. 'Cause you know, baby, that I don't wanna go. We cannot live together. We cannot live apart. And that's the situation.
Jeff Dwyer's my special guest this hour, X-Zone Nation. Jeff is the author of Ghost Hunter's Guide to San Francisco Bay Area, Ghost Hunter's Guide to Los Angeles, Ghost Hunter's Guide to New Orleans, Ghost Hunter's Guide to Seattle, and Ghost Hunter's Guide to California Gold Rush Country. His website is www.jeffdwyer.com, and that's www.jeffdwyer.com. Jeff, in all the research that you have done, where has been the most haunted place you have visited?
I think it's the Queen Mary in Long Beach, California. That ship is reputed to have over 500 spirits on board. Many of them died on board. In fact, the vast majority died on board, including 372 sailors who died on an escort vessel that the Queen Mary rammed during World War II. The collision opened up a huge gash in the bow of the Queen Mary, and 372 sailors were sucked in from the escort vessel and died.
Gosh.
So they are there. Numerous passengers, crew, prisoners of war who were transported on the ship during World War II. They comprise the spirit population of the Queen Mary. And every time I've been on that ship, I've had some really impressive paranormal experiences.
Can you share a few of them with us?
Yeah, I've seen apparitions, heard sounds, and felt people touching me, heard numerous voices in my ear, bursts of music from big bands from the 40s and the 50s. The last time I was on board, I woke up in the middle of the night to get a drink of water, and there was a woman leaning over my bed, dressed pretty much like Jackie Kennedy used to dress, the little pillbox hat and the tailored suit. And I don't know if she occupied the room at one time or was a hostess of some sort, but she was just standing there leaning over my bed looking at me. Didn't say anything, but it was clear as day, literally quite detailed apparition. Stayed there for 20, 30 seconds, and as she stood up again, smiled and disappeared. We've heard all kinds of sounds on that ship, from noises next door, and then in the morning we find out there's no compartment next door to us. Numerous experiences.
Jeff, have you ever had any intelligent communication with a spirit?
Yeah, I have. In fact, that's an important definition of having a ghostly experience. There's so many things that are paranormal that are not ghostly. In order to say you've had a ghostly encounter, there has to be an intelligent interaction between the ghost and a witness or the environment. And the intelligent interaction with the environment might be the movement of something, or a message found scribbled on a pad of paper, or something of this sort. An intelligent interaction with a witness might be direct eye contact, gestures made by the ghost, or receiving some sort of auditory message. They might speak to you. And yes, I've received many of these things.
What kind of intelligent communication have you yourself received from a ghost?
Well, I've had answers to my questions. I've often, when we do investigations, we'll have recorders running and we'll ask questions like, did you die here? Were you murdered? How old are you? What are your names? What's your name? And we will get intelligent answers to those questions.
But are
Sometimes-
these intelligence answers via EVP, or are they audible right at that time?
Well, in many cases, they only show up on the recorder, but